The rain hammered against the windows like 1,000 tiny accusations, drowning out the city's distant hum. I poured us another round of whiskey, my hands steady despite the storm inside me, and handed the glass to Anthony, our fingers brushing just long enough to send a forbidden spark up my arm. "To old friends," he said, his voice low and rough, clinking his glass against mine. But when he leaned in, it wasn't for a toast. His lips crashed into mine with the force of a secret finally breaking free, shattering every lie we'd ever told ourselves. James had always been the careful one, the architect of his own quiet life in the shadow of Brooklyn's brownstones. At 28, he was a graphic designer by day, sketching logos for indie bands and coffee shops that dotted the hipster enclaves of Williamsburg. But by night, he was a ghost in the gay bars of Chelsea, nursing drinks and stolen glances without ever committing to the chase. It wasn't fear exactly, not of the world, which had cracked open its doors to love in all its messy forms since he'd come out at 22. No, it was Anthony, his straight best friend since freshman year at NYU. The golden boy with the easy laugh and the football shoulders, who made James's heart stutter like a glitchy hard drive every time they hung out. That Friday in late October, the air crisp with the promise of falling leaves and forgotten Halloweens, James had texted Anthony on a whim. "Movie night? My place. Got that new horror flick everyone's raving about." It was innocuous, the kind of invite they'd traded 100 times. Lazy evenings fueled by takeout Thai and bad puns. Anthony, now a rising junior associate at a midtown law firm, had replied instantly, "Hell yeah. Bring the popcorn, I'll bring the skepticism." James had smiled at his phone, ignoring the familiar ache in his chest, the one that whispered what if in the quiet hours. By 8 p.m., the apartment was set. String lights draped over the exposed brick walls, casting a warm amber glow that softened the edges of James's thrift store furniture. The scent of buttery kernels popped in the microwave mingled with the faint, comforting musk of Anthony's cologne as he shrugged off his wool coat, revealing a fitted black tee that hugged his frame like it was designed for sin. "Damn, this place looks good," Anthony said, kicking off his boots and collapsing onto the couch with the grace of someone who owned every room he entered. "You finally ditched that ratty lava lamp?" James laughed, a little too loud, tossing a bowl of popcorn between them. "Yeah, well, maturity's a bitch. Wine or whiskey?" "Whiskey. Always." Anthony's grin was boyish, disarming. The same one that had gotten them out of dorm room scrapes and through heartbreak symphonies. As James poured in the kitchen, he stole a glance. Anthony scrolling his phone, brow furrowed in that adorable concentration, the lamplight carving shadows along his jaw. Straight, James reminded himself, the word a mantra etched into his bones. Best friend. Don't fuck this up. The movie started with a jolt. The Haunting of Hollow Creek. A indie darling about a man unraveling in a cursed Victorian manse, his sanity fraying as ghosts of past loves clawed at the edges. It was perfect. Atmospheric dread wrapped in queer subtext that James could dissect later, alone. They settled in, legs stretched across the coffee table, commentary flying like old times. "This guy's an idiot," Anthony snorted during a jump scare, his knee bumping James's. "Just burn the house down and call it a day." Halfway through, the whiskey had loosened their tongues, the rain outside a relentless percussion that mirrored the film's rising tension. Anthony shifted closer, ostensibly to point at the screen. "See? Told you the twist was bullshit." But his arm draped over the back of the couch, fingers grazing James's shoulder. It was nothing, James told himself, heat rising in his neck like fever. Nothing until the on-screen protagonist confessed his forbidden love to a spectral lover. The words raw and ragged. "I can't pretend anymore. You're in me like poison or prayer." The room went still. The movie paused on a frozen frame of anguished faces, the remote forgotten in the cushions. Anthony's hand stilled on James's shoulder, thumb tracing a slow, deliberate circle. "James," he murmured, voice stripped bare. "What if it's not pretend?" James's world tilted. He turned, expecting a joke, a deflection. But Anthony's eyes were dark pools, stormy with something unspoken. Before James could process, Anthony closed the gap, his mouth hot and insistent against James's, tasting of bourbon and desperation. It was a kiss that rewrote history, tongues tentative at first, then hungry, hands fisting in shirts as the dam of years cracked wide open. When they broke apart, gasping, Anthony's forehead pressed to James's, his breath ragged. I've wanted that since sophomore year. Fuck, James, I thought you knew. Knew? James's mind reeled, a carousel of stolen moments flashing by. The way Anthony's gaze lingered in locker rooms, the protective arms slung around his waist at parties, the late-night texts that veered too close to confession. You're straight, James whispered, the word absurd now, crumbling like ash. Anthony laughed, bitter and broken. Yeah, that's what I told myself. For Dad, for the firm, for everyone who looks at me like I'm the next big thing in straight white male America. But you've always been the exception. He pulled back, searching James's face, vulnerability etching lines around his eyes. Tell me to stop. Tell me I'm ruining everything. But James didn't. Instead, he surged forward, reclaiming the kiss with a fierceness that surprised them both. Hands roaming the plains of Anthony's back, mapping territory long dreamed of. They tumbled together on the couch, clothes shedding like old skin, the movie forgotten as bodies intertwined in a symphony of rediscovery. Anthony's touches were reverent, exploratory, fingers tracing scars from childhood falls, lips whispering praises against collarbones. James arched into him, lost in the revelation that this man, his anchor, had been adrift too. Hours blurred into a haze of sweat-slicked skin and shared breaths, the rain their only witness. Afterward, tangled in sheets on James's bed, Anthony traced lazy patterns on James's chest. This changes everything, he said softly, fear threading his words. James swallowed, heart pounding. Does it have to? Anthony's silence was answer enough. But in that moment, wrapped in the afterglow, James chose hope. For the first time, the what-if felt like when. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, sunlight slicing through the blinds like judgment. Anthony woke first, slipping from bed to brew coffee, his naked form a silhouette against the window that made James's pulse quicken anew. They moved around each other with shy domesticity. Pancakes sizzling on the stove, stolen kisses over mugs, until Anthony's phone buzzed, shattering the bubble. He glanced at the screen, face tightening. Work, he muttered. But James caught the name, Dad. Everything okay? James asked, buttering toast, casual as he could manage. Anthony hesitated, then nodded too quickly. Yeah, just the usual. Thinks I need to network at some gala tonight. He set the phone face down, but the damage was done. The real world had intruded, reminding them of the chasm between this stolen morning and the lives they wore like ill-fitting suits. They parted with a lingering hug at the door, Anthony's lips brushing James's ear. Dinner tomorrow? My place. No movies, just us. His smile was tentative, a bridge extended over uncertain waters. James watched him go, the elevator ding echoing like a heartbeat. Alone, he sank onto the couch, the faint scent of Anthony's cologne clinging to the cushions. Shock lingered, mingled with a joy so sharp it bordered on pain. Had it really happened? Or was it a dream conjured from too much whiskey and repressed longing? Work that week was a blur. James's designs took on bolder lines, colors bleeding into each other like emotions unbound. Texts from Anthony lit up his phone. Missed you at lunch. Thinking about that spot behind your ear. Emojis couldn't mask the undercurrent of urgency. The way Anthony's messages grew shorter, more coded, as if afraid of being overheard even in pixels. Friday came, and James arrived at Anthony's sleek Upper East Side sublet, courtesy of the firm's perks, with a bottle of red and nerves jangling like keys. The apartment was all glass and chrome, a far cry from James's cozy chaos, but Anthony greeted him with a kiss that erased the distance, pulling him inside with hands that trembled slightly. They cooked together, pasta carbonara from a half-remembered recipe, wine flowing freely, laughing over spilled flour and burnt garlic. Seated at the island, forks twining, Anthony opened up in fragments. The pressure from his father, a Wall Street titan who'd molded him into a carbon copy. The parade of appropriate dates his mother orchestrated. The nights he'd lain awake, scrolling James's Instagram, aching for what he couldn't name. "I tried dating women," Anthony admitted, staring into his glass. "Even brought one home once, but it felt scripted, like I was playing a role in someone else's life." He reached across, lacing fingers with James's. "With you, it's real. Terrifying, but real." James's throat tightened. "What about them? Your family, they don't know." Anthony's laugh was hollow. "God, no. Dad would disown me faster than you can say, legacy. And Mom, she'd cry for weeks, then pray it away." He squeezed James's hand. "But I'm done hiding. For us." The words hung, a vow sealed with another kiss, deeper this time, leading them to Anthony's king-sized bed where they explored with the leisure of lovers unhurried. Anthony was attentive, learning James's rhythms, the hitch in his breath when thumbs grazed hips, the way his toes curled at certain pressures. In the quiet aftermath, heads on the same pillow, James whispered, "I love you," the confession slipping out like a sigh. Anthony stilled, then turned, eyes shining. "I love you too, Jay. Always have." It was the pinnacle, that weekend a montage of stolen bliss. Brunches in hidden cafes, walks along the Hudson where hands brushed unseen, nights where bodies spoke what words couldn't. James felt seen, truly, for the first time. Anthony's gaze stripping away the armor he'd worn so long. But cracks formed subtly, like hairline fractures in glass. Anthony's phone calls grew frequent, voice clipped after each. He'd vanish for hours, returning with excuses that rang false. "Client dinner," he'd say. But James caught the faint perfume on his collar once, floral and accusatory. By mid-November, the city had donned its winter guise, Central Park's paths crunching underfoot with early frost, holiday lights twinkling prematurely in shop windows. James and Anthony had settled into a rhythm, a clandestine dance of texts and trysts that felt sustainable, even thrilling. They'd carved out safe spaces. A speakeasy in the village where the bartenders didn't pry, a rooftop in Bushwick for stargazing away from prying eyes. Anthony was opening up, shedding layers, admitting the panic attacks that gripped him in boardrooms. The way James's laugh was his antidote. One crisp Saturday, bundled in scarves and shared thermoses of cider, they wandered the Met, hands in pockets but shoulders touching. "Look at that," Anthony murmured before a Monet. The water lilies a blur of emotion. All that beauty hidden in plain sight. "Like us." James leaned into him, heart swelling. "Yeah, but we're not hidden anymore." Anthony's smile faltered, just a flicker. "Not to each other." That night, back at James's, they made love with the windows open to the chill, breaths fogging the glass, bodies a defiant warmth against the cold. Afterward, Anthony traced the tattoo on James's rib, a small compass rose, inked after his coming-out road trip across Route 66. "Points true north," Anthony said softly. "What's yours?" "You," James replied, simple as truth. But truth has edges. The following week, Anthony canceled their plans twice. Once for a late deposition, another for a family obligation he wouldn't name. James filled the voids with freelance gigs, sketching feverishly, but doubt crept in like damp through cracks. Was it the novelty wearing off? Or something uglier? The betrayal hit on a Tuesday, unannounced and vicious. James was at a client meeting in Soho when his phone buzzed. A photo from a mutual friend, innocuous at first. Anthony at a holiday mixer, arm around a woman in a red dress, her head thrown back in laughter against his chest. The caption, "Anth killing it as usual. Who's the lucky lady?" James's vision tunneled, the room's chatter fading to white noise. He excused himself, fleeing to the alley behind the cafe, rain-slicked pavement mirroring his nausea. "Lucky lady." The words mocked him, twisting the knife. He dialed Anthony, voicemail beeping coldly. Text after text. "Explain. Please." No reply. By evening, James was a wreck, pacing his apartment. The same couch where it began now, a crime scene of memories. When Anthony finally showed, disheveled, tie askew, eyes red-rimmed. The air crackled with unspoken fury. Jay, wait! Who is she? James's voice was steel, honed by hurt. Anthony deflated, sinking onto the armchair like a man condemned. Her name's Elena, colleague. Dad set it up. Said it was good for the firm. I went to shut it down, but things escalated. Drinks, then the photo. It means nothing. Nothing? James laughed, sharp and shattered. You looked pretty cozy for nothing. God. Anthony, after everything, I'm done hiding? Was that bullshit too? Anthony surged up, hands outstretched. No, I swear it was a performance. The same act I've been running my whole life. But with you, it's different. You're my truth. James recoiled, the space between them a chasm. Your truth? Then why does it feel like I'm the side character in your straight guy redemption arc? The fight escalated, words as weapons. Anthony accusing James of paranoia born of past rejections. James hurling back the weight of closeted love, the fear of being the experiment. Plates shattered metaphorically, then literally when Anthony swept the coffee table in frustration, mugs crashing to the floor. In the melee, James shoved him, hard, against the wall. Anthony grabbed his wrists, pulling him close until their breaths mingled, anger flipping to desperation. They kissed then, furious and forgiving. A collision of need and rage that left bruises blooming like dark flowers. But as they collapsed onto the bed, tearing at clothes, the sex was different. Edged with violence, a reclaiming laced with doubt. Anthony whispered apologies into James's skin, promises of change. But James came undone with tears streaking his face, the release more catharsis than pleasure. Morning brought fragile peace. Over cold cereal, Anthony vowed, no more mixers, no more dad's games. I'll tell him about us. James searched his face, wanting to believe. You sure? It's not just words this time. Anthony nodded. Fierce. For you, I'd burn it all. They rebuilt slowly, dates turning intentional. A weekend in the Catskills, hiking trails dusted with snow, where Anthony proposed they move in together. Fuck the optics, let's build something real. James hesitated, the betrayal scar still tender, but the vision tempted. Mornings tangled in sunlight, evenings debating Supreme Court cases over takeout. Yet the world conspired. Anthony's father, Richard Hargrove, was a force silver-haired titan of mergers and acquisitions, donor to every conservative cause that greased his wheels. Whispers reached James through the grapevine. Richard pushing Anthony toward partnership, dangling Elena as the perfect match, her family old money intertwined with his. One night, after a gala Anthony attended solo, last one, I promise, he returned hollow-eyed, collapsing beside James with a bottle of scotch. He cornered me, said if I don't get serious with Elena, he'll cut me off. The job, the apartment, everything. James's stomach dropped, and Anthony's hands shook as he poured. I told him to go to hell, but Jay, it's not just money, it's him. My whole identity's wrapped in that approval. The room spun for James, the humanistic core of their love tested against the monolith of legacy. So what now? We fight, or we fold? Anthony pulled him close, lips salty with unshed tears. We fight, together. But doubt festered. James threw himself into work, landing a contract with a queer theater troupe, designing posters that screamed visibility. Anthony, meanwhile, grew distant. Late nights at the office, excuses piling like snowdrifts. James confronted him once, over a tense dinner at a midtown bistro, voices low amid the clink of silverware. You're pulling away, James said, fork stabbing his salmon. Tell me it's not her. Anthony's jaw clenched. It's the pressure. The firm's watching, Dad's calling in favors. Elena's, persistent, thinks we're inevitable. Inevitable? James's laugh was bitter. Like a merger? Anthony reached for his hand, but James yanked back. I love you. That hasn't changed. Hasn't it? The words hung, a gauntlet thrown. The argument spilled into the street, rain soaking them as they stood under the awning. cabs honking like accusatory horns. Anthony stormed off, hailing a ride. James walked home, miles through the deluge, each step a reckoning. Was love enough against the tide of expectation? Or was he too complicit, clinging to a man half in? Days blurred into radio silence, broken only by a single text from Anthony. Need time. Forgive me. James deleted it, then fished it from trash, hard a battlefield. He confided in Mia, his drag queen bestie from the bar scene, over neon-lit cocktails. Babe, he's scared, she drawled, fanning herself with a menu. Straight-passing trauma runs deep. But you're gold. Don't let him tarnish you. Her words lingered as James prepped for the Troops opening. A raw play about queer erasure in corporate America. Irony not lost. Backstage, amid glitter and nerves, his phone lit up. Anthony, uninvited, in the audience. Heart hammering, James peeked from the wings, spotting him in the third row, suit rumpled, eyes locked on the stage like a man at confession. The play unfolded. A protagonist much like Anthony, torn between boardroom ambition and bedroom authenticity, climaxing in a blistering monologue about betrayal's cost. As the actor roared, "I won't be your ghost anymore," Anthony bolted, chair scraping like a scream. James found him outside, chain-smoking under the marquee, face streaked with rain or tears. "You came," James said, voice small. "Couldn't not." Anthony crushed the butt, stepping close. "That was us. Every word." They stood there, the city's pulse around them, until Anthony cupped James's face. "I'm sorry. For the distance. For letting him in my head. Elena's done, told her tonight. And Dad. Fuck him. I choose you." The kiss was salt and surrender, bodies pressing against the brick wall as applause echoed faintly. Back at James's, they made love like atonement. Slow, deliberate, eyes locked in silent vows. "Marry me?" Anthony whispered in the dark, ringless but earnest. "Someday, when we're ready." James's yes was a sob, the conflict yielding to fragile hope. But hope is a hothouse flower, wilting under frost. December brought holidays, fraught with landmines. Anthony's family dinner loomed, an invitation extended to James as the college buddy, code for camouflage. "Just one night," Anthony pleaded. "Play along, then we're free." James agreed, steeling himself for the charade. The Hargrove brownstone on Park Avenue was opulence incarnate. Crystal chandeliers, a tree trimmed in heirlooms, Richard holding court like a benevolent dictator. Elena was there, radiant in emerald velvet, her hand lingering too long on Anthony's arm. James, in chinos and a sweater, felt like an extra in a period drama, smiling through small talk about the markets while his gut churned. Dinner was a minefield. Richard toasting traditional values. Elena's foot nudging Anthony's under the table. Mrs. Hargrove's pitying glances at James, the confirmed bachelor. Anthony's hand found his once, under the damask cloth, a squeeze that said hold on. But when Richard pulled Anthony aside for a word, James excused himself to the powder room, splashing water on his face, whispering, "You can do this." He returned to find Anthony ashen, Elena's laughter brittle. Later, in the coat room, Anthony hissed, "He knows, or suspects, offered me Paris, promotion, if I settle down properly with her." James's blood ran cold. "And you said, declined." But Anthony's eyes darted, the lie in the avoidance. The drive back was silent, tension thick as fog. At a red light, James exploded. "You're not declining shit. You're hedging, Anthony. Keeping options open while I bleed for us." Anthony gripped the wheel white-knuckled. "It's survival. You think coming out's easy when your life's a house of cards." "Survival," James echoed, voice breaking. "Or self-preservation at my expense?" The fight raged into the night, accusations flying like snowflakes in a blizzard. Anthony admitted fragments. Late-night calls with Elena. Just talking. Lunches that blurred lines. "She's safe," he confessed, crumbling. "No fallout, no disinheritance. But I want you. I do." James packed a bag then, the ultimate betrayal, not the photo, But the half measures eroding their foundation. Love isn't a negotiation, he said, zipping the duffel. It's all or nothing. Anthony begged, on his knees in the hallway, but James walked out into the dawn, the door clicking shut like finality. The weeks post-walkout were a descent into winter's maw, New York burying itself under gray skies and slushy streets that mirrored James's soul. He crashed at Mia's in the East Village, her pull-out couch a lumpy confessor absorbing midnight rants and tear-soaked pillows. Work became salvation. The theater run extended, posters plastered across subways, each glance a reminder of resilience. But nights were voids. Anthony's absence a phantom limb throbbing with what-ifs. Texts trickled at first. Miss you. Can we talk? Then ceased, radio silence stretching like taffy. James blocked the number, then unblocked, scrolling old photos. That Catskills sunrise, Anthony's grin wide as the horizon. Humanistic doubt gnawed. Was he too rigid, demanding perfection in imperfection? Or was Anthony's love conditional, a fair-weather flame? January thawed nothing. A mutual friend, at a gallery opening in Chelsea, pulled James aside. Anth's a mess. Quit the firm. Said it was toxic. Holed up with his folks. But word is, Elena's circling like a vulture. James nodded, numb. Good for him. But it wasn't. That night, alone with a bottle of Pinot and the haunting queued up mockingly, James shattered, sobs racking him until dawn. The kind of grief that hollows you out. He journaled it, words spilling. I loved him not despite the mess, but because of it. The boy who kissed me in the rain, who dreamed of escape. Where did he go? Spring teased with crocuses in Union Square. James emerging like a perennial, hair longer, laugh tentative but returning. He dated casually. A barista with tattoos and easy banter. A curator whose intellect sparked but didn't ignite. Nothing stuck. Anthony's ghost lingered. A benchmark none met. Then, in April's bloom, collision. James, sketching in Washington Square Park amid buskers and frisbee games, looked up to find Anthony across the fountain, thinner, bearded, eyes haunted under the cherry blossoms. Time stuttered. Anthony approached, hands shoved in jeans pockets, voice rough as gravel. Hey! James's pencil snapped in his grip. Hey! Awkward beats. Then Anthony sat, uninvited, on the bench's edge. You look good. Happy. Liar. James's tone was wry, but his heart raced. Anthony chuckled, low. Guilty. I've been shit. Lost the job, Dad's ultimatum, chose myself for once. Told him everything. He didn't take it well. Cut ties as expected. James absorbed it, the betrayal's echo fading slightly. And Elena? Gone. Realized she was a crutch, not a cure. Anthony's gaze dropped to his boots. I fucked up, Jay. Pushed you away because I was scared you'd see the coward under the charm. The admission hung, vulnerable as exposed roots. James wanted anger, but found empathy. A humanistic bridge over the hurt. I saw him, loved him anyway, but you chose fear over us. Anthony nodded, tears welling. I know. Therapy's helping. Unpack the bullshit Dad drilled in. I'm out now to friends, colleagues. It's lonely, but honest. He reached tentative for James's hand. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'd spend my life earning it, if you'd let me. James pulled back, not cruelly but necessary. I need time, not for you, for me, to trust again. Anthony's face crumpled, but he stood, grace in defeat. Fair. I'll wait, however long. He left a number on a napkin new, untainted, and walked away, shoulders squared against the spring wind. James watched, chest aching with possibilities whisper. Summer unfurled in heat waves and rooftop parties. James diving into a solo road trip, echoing that old ink on his rib, driving the Pacific Coast Highway in a rented Mustang, windows down, indie playlists blasting. Stops in Big Sur yielded clarity. Bonfires on beaches where he journaled epiphanies. Love isn't possession. It's permission to grow. Calls to Mia. I'm okay. Really. Back in the city, Anthony's presence was spectral. Likes on socials. A coffee left anonymously at James's door. No pressure, just proof of persistence. James resisted, dating a musician named Theo whose vulnerability mirrored his own. But it fizzled. Theo called him out gently. "You're elsewhere, man. Ghosts don't make good boyfriends." August brought the climax, unbidden. James's troupe mounted a new production. A raw exploration of queer betrayal and redemption. His designs bleeding emotion onto sets. Opening night, house packed, James hovered backstage, pulse syncing with the actor's lines. Then, spotlight shift. Anthony, stepping from the shadows on stage, script in hand, not as audience but participant. He'd auditioned anonymously, landed the role of the conflicted lover, pouring his soul into rehearsals James never knew about. The monologue hit like lightning. Anthony, under Klieg lights, voice breaking on, "I betrayed you not with another, but with my silence. Forgive me, not for who I was, but for who I'm becoming." The theater hushed, then erupted. James, tears streaming, watched the man he'd loved evolve before him, raw and real. Curtain call. Anthony found him in the wings, sweat slicked, eyes pleading. "I needed to show you." Words weren't enough. James trembled, the floodgates opening. "You idiot. You brilliant, terrifying idiot." He crashed into Anthony's arms, the kiss a public declaration amid cheers, bodies fitting like puzzle pieces long separated. They talked for hours post-show, in a dive bar's back booth, nursing beers and wounds. Anthony laid bare the months. Therapy revelations, mending fences with a sister who'd suspected all along. A freelance gig writing legal briefs for LGBTQ plus nonprofits. "I'm building from scratch," he said. "No safety nets. But with you, I'd choose it every time." James weighed it, the conflict's ashes fertilizing growth. "No more half measures. We're all in or nothing." "All in," Anthony vowed, sealing it with a ring from his pocket. Simple silver, engraved true north. Fall returned, leaves turning in Central Park as they navigated the rebuild. Cohabitation was messy. Anthony's cooking disasters, James's clutter critiques, arguments over closet space that dissolved into laughter. But depth anchored them. Shared therapy sessions unpacking betrayals. Date nights volunteering at a youth center, where stories of hidden loves mirrored their own. One evening, rain lashing the windows like that fateful night, they curled on the couch, the haunting playing ironically, Anthony's head in James's lap. "Think we'll make it?" he murmured, vulnerability soft. James threaded fingers through his hair. "We already have. The rest? Bonus rounds." Anthony tilted up, eyes warm. "Love you. Love you more." Outside, the city thrummed, indifferent yet accepting. A vast American tapestry where two men, scarred but whole, wove their thread. It wasn't fairy tale perfect. Conflicts lingered, small betrayals of habit-tested resolve. But in the humanistic heart of it, they chose each other daily. Not despite the drama, but through it. Romance reborn, not in grand gestures, but quiet fidelities. Coffee runs at dawn, inside jokes at parties, the simple act of coming home. James glanced at the paused screen, the ghostly lovers reconciled. Fitting, he thought. We'd all been haunted once. Now we were free. Yet freedom's price demanded one final reckoning. Thanksgiving loomed, Anthony's olive branch to his family. A neutral dinner, no pretenses. Richard declined, a curt email citing prior commitments. But Mrs. Hargrove appeared, tentative in pearls and regret. Over turkey at a neutral bistro, she reached for Anthony's hand. "I failed you, son, but I'm learning. For you and him." Her gaze flicked to James, softening. "Welcome." Tears fell, not of sorrow, but release. Richard's shadow loomed, but it no longer eclipsed. Anthony had carved his light. Winter solstice brought closure. A letter arrived, postmarked from Connecticut. Richard, in stiff script, admitting pain but not apology. "I built walls to protect you. Didn't see I trapped us both. Be happy. That's enough." Anthony read it aloud by the tree, voice steady, then burned it in the sink. a ritual of letting go. New Year's Eve, they stood on James's roof, fireworks blooming over the skyline, champagne flutes clinking. To shocks that wake us, Anthony toasted. To darkness that births light, James replied. Their kiss swallowed the countdown, the world exploding in color around them. In America's beating heart, two souls, once betrayed, now bound, embraced the unknown, humanistic in their imperfection, romantic in their endurance. The new year unfolded like a fresh sketchpad, lines bold and unapologetic. James and Anthony's life together was a collage of reclaimed moments. Weekend getaways to Fire Island, where they joined hands on beaches teeming with queer joy, bodies bronzed and free under the sun. Anthony's writing gig blossomed into a column for a progressive mag. Op-eds on corporate closets, his voice gaining traction, drawing emails from closeted execs echoing his past. It's like I'm paying forward the grace you gave me, he'd say, pecking James's cheek amid keyboard clatter. James's career surged too. A solo exhibit at a Bushwick gallery, his designs fusing graphic punch with emotional depth, themes of fractured identities selling out to collectors who murmured, "It's so raw." Opening night, Anthony hovered proud, introducing James as my partner, my muse. The words a quiet revolution, but romance's flame needs stoking. Conflicts simmered in domestic eddies. Anthony's restlessness surfaced in March, a job offer from a San Francisco startup. Progressive, queer-friendly, but across the country. It's a fresh start, he argued over stir-fry, chopsticks waving like flags. No East Coast ghosts. James's fork paused mid-air. And us? Uproot everything for a maybe? The debate stretched nights, vulnerability clashing with ambition. I don't want to hold you back, James confessed one dawn. Sheets twisted. But losing you again? Unthinkable. Anthony pulled him close. Not losing, evolving. Come with me, your work's portable. Temptation warred with roots. James's family in Philly, his found queer kin in the city. They tethered him. Ultimately, compromise. Anthony took the gig remote hybrid, splitting time between coasts, their love a bicoastal bridge. Betrayal's specter revisited in subtler guises. A college reunion in May dredged up old flames. Anthony's ex, a sorority girl turned activist, cornering him with what-ifs over craft beers. James, across the quad, watched the laughter, jealousy a green serpent coiling. Confrontation came gentle, over hotel room wine. Talk to me. Don't let silence breed doubt. Anthony did, spilling the awkward flirtation rebuffed. She's history. You're now future. All of it. They made love then, reaffirming boundaries, the emotional depth forging stronger steel. Summer's heat wave tested endurance. Anthony's West Coast stints meant video calls at odd hours. James's exhibit tours leaving empty beds. Loneliness nipped, but they countered with rituals. Mailed mixtapes, surprise visits, letters tucked into suitcases like talismans. One such, James's scrawl. In every skyline, I see your face. Come home soon. Humanism bloomed in service. They mentored at the youth center, Anthony facilitating legal workshops, James leading art therapy. A kid named Riley, 17 and freshly out, reminded them of younger selves. Scared eyes softening under guidance. You guys give me hope, Riley said, hugging them post-session. In that purpose deepened their bond. Love not just romantic, but redemptive. Fall's palette brought pinnacle tension. Anthony's column ignited backlash. A troll storm from conservative corners, doxing threats that chilled their inbox. Richard resurfaced. A rare call. Proud? You're a pariah now. Anthony hung up, shaking. But James held him through the rage, whispering, Your words matter. They save. Climax crested at a pride rally in June. No, wait. The real storm brewed in November's Eve, anniversary of their first kiss. Anthony planned a surprise. A cabin in the Adirondacks, firelit and secluded. But en route, blizzard hit, stranding them in a roadside motel, neon sign flickering vacancy. Power outage plunged them into dark, candles guttering like heartbeats. Huddled under thin blankets, stories flowed. Anthony's boyhood crushes on teammates, James's first bar crush crushed by rejection. Vulnerability peaked when Anthony admitted a recent slip. A drunken grinder scroll during a lonely SF layover. No meat, but the intent stung. I was weak, proving I'm not perfect. James's hurt flared, but empathy tempered. We're human, but honesty, that's the vow. Tears, then tenderness. They made love by firelight, bodies a map of scars and stars. Dawn broke clear, the storm passed, their path reaffirmed. Yet the true dramatic crest loomed larger, a betrayal's echo in unforeseen form. December, Anthony's sister wedding. Lavish affair in the Hamptons. Richard attending with a date, Elena among guests, her presence a ghost. Tensions simmered at the rehearsal dinner. Toasts laced with subtext, Richard's eyes boring into Anthony like drills. James, as +1, felt the outsider chill, Elena's simpering, so good to see you too. Happy, dripping acid. The ceremony was fairy tale gloss, but reception cracked. Richard, 3 whiskeys deep, cornered Anthony by the gazebo. James, fetching drinks, overheard fragments, disgrace. Legacy. End this farce. Anthony's voice rose, sharp. I'm not your puppet anymore. Fists clenched, Richard swung. Not connecting, but the intent landed. Anthony shoved back, chaos erupting. Guests gasping, sister in tears. James surged in, pulling Anthony away, his own shout, "Enough!" echoing over the surf. They fled to the beach, suits discarded. Waves crashing like applause for their escape. Anthony collapsed, sobbing. He'll never change. And I almost let him win again. James held him, salt mingling with sea spray. You didn't. We didn't. The fallout rippled. Wedding photos airbrushed their early exit. Family texts a mix of support and silence. Richard's follow-up. A check, and signed note for a fresh start, away. Anthony tore it, but James salvaged. Donate it. Turn poison to purpose. New Year beckoned anew. Their love battle-tested, romantic in resilience. They hosted a solstice party, queer friends, Mia in full drag, toasts to survival. Amid laughter, Anthony pulled James aside, on the fire escape under stars. Marry me, for real. No coasts, no doubts, just us. Kneeling in the chill, ring glinting. A compass rose etched in gold. James's yes was thunder. Spring 2026 bloomed with wedding whispers, not grand but intimate. A rooftop ceremony in June, cherry blossoms imported for the occasion, 50 souls bearing witness. James in linen suit, Anthony in tailored gray, vows exchanged under a chuppah borrowed from a Jewish friend, blending traditions like their lives. Mia officiated, her, I now pronounce you husbands, partners, pains in the S drawing whoops. Richard sent regrets and flowers, a white flag fluttering. Honeymoon in Provincetown. Bike rides along dunes, seafood shacks, nights where ocean roared approval. They returned tanned, tattooed, matching bands on fingers, a shared ink of intertwined roots on ankles. Domesticity deepened. Anthony's book deal for a memoir out of the firm. A closeted lawyer's reckoning. James's studio expanding to teach workshops. Conflicts persisted, humanistic in their banality. Anthony's travel for signings clashing with James's deadlines. Spats over chores dissolving into tickle fights. A scare in July. Anthony's chest pains. ER visit revealing stress-induced arrhythmia, rebuked complacency. Life's short, he gasped post-discharge, James's hand in his. Don't waste it fighting small. They didn't. Volunteering intensified, founding a fund for queer legal aid. Riley their first success story, college-bound, beaming at the launch gala. Romance reignited in gestures. Anthony's playlists curated for drives, James's sketches of their future home. A fixer-upper in Hudson Valley, dreams sketched in charcoal. Betrayal's final shadow fell unexpectedly, a callback to origins. Elena, post-divorce from a tech bro, emailed Anthony, heard about the wedding. Happy for you. Coffee? Closure. Curiosity tempted. Anthony shared, transparent. James urged go, end it clean, but joined, a united front at a neutral cafe. She arrived poised, older but unbowed. I was the placeholder, she admitted over lattes. For him and me, seeing you too. It's envy, not regret. Hugs exchanged, numbers deleted. Closure a gentle severing. Summer's end brought the memoir's release, launch packed with press. Richard attending incognito in the back row. Post-reading, he approached, hand extended. Well written, honest. No more, but the olive branch held. Lunches followed, tentative bridges over chasms. Fall harvest yielded abundance. The Hudson House closing, renovations a joint labor. Anthony swinging hammers, James painting murals of their story. Winter's first snow. They christened the hearth, bodies warm against the frost. 1 year on anniversary eve, they recreated the movie night, popcorn, whiskey, the haunting cued. Rain pattered. Familiar. Anthony paused the film mid-kiss scene, turning to James. Shocked you that night. Best mistake of my life. James grinned, pulling him close. Shocked me into truth. Wouldn't trade it. They made love on the rug, slow and sure, the world outside irrelevant. Afterward, wrapped in quilts, Anthony murmured, "What's next?" James traced his ring. Everything. Us against the plot twists. In America's vast narrative, dramatic, emotional, laced with betrayal's bite and romance's balm, they thrived. Not flawless, but human. Two men who danced with darkness, emerging luminous. Love, they learned, isn't absence of storm, but sailing through, hands clasped, horizons endless. The end? No, beginnings plural etched in every dawn.